Alrighty, Old Roller Nation, welcome to the show. The Jiu-Jitsu teacher, black belt under was given his black belt by Matt Thornton, probably most known for some of his BJJ Globetrotters seminars. Priit Mihkelson. Preet, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Yes.
Really excited to have you. I have my when I say a lot of people, probably introduced you through Globetrotters. I've been following those seminars for a long time, and then started watching yours. And you have a very fun perspective, and it's also very logical and thoughtful. And there's an interesting interplay sometimes with your attitude between an extreme seriousness and an extreme playfulness. And the two, in a way, don't seem like they would go together, but they really do. And you do a great job of holding them together really well. So I'm really
Thank you.
excited to bring your perspective as a teacher. Um, Specifically, there's a lot of things that I'm interested in talking with you about. But we had Rob Bernacki on the show a couple of times, and one of the things that he really made stick out was the idea that play is a very resource expensive activity in terms of uh, uh, life or sustenance, so to speak. It takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time. And so if it wasn't really, really valuable, then evolutionarily it would have found its way out. Meaning that we wouldn't learn as well, we wouldn't play as much as we do as a species if there wasn't a lot of value in it. And when I was listening to your podcast, the first one on the Sonny Brown breakdown, you talked about creating games so that people could learn, within certain domains where there's a lot of complexity, reducing the complexity down and then just making a game out of it. And so that to me is actually really similar to something that Rob said. They play a game called Fuck Your Jiu-Jitsu. And so it seems like you're kind of on a similar track where you're not necessarily throwing a huge amount of technique or technical ideas at a person. You're giving them small chunks and then saying, play with these, almost like a toy, which is a fascinating concept, one that I really like.
So, yes, I use that. Uh, so I think right now maybe Rob and me and I know some other people, maybe we look like, oh, you're doing this and it's fascinating and stuff. It should, like, I think even Rob said that. I think it should be normal that if everybody is after gravity, that we will start to find similar things. So
Mm-hmm.
if everybody would be after better training methodologies, better retention numbers, even, and all those things, I think people would lean towards those kind of things anyway, because it seems to be better way of doing things. And there's been studies, why they play and why you learning better, and the mindset, and the maybe less stressful mindset, that you, and also always making mistakes and adapting and having fun and laughing. So it is a great environment. I'm not saying I always do that. There's definitely some technique part that people have to learn. Let's say you teach a dart stroke, and there's still mechanics, and they have to teach a technique, so to speak. But I guess later, if it's a dart, okay, they will resist, progressively move around, go on their back, and you just have to follow them with the darts. And if I can, maybe I would make a drill, like a call out drill would be like this, that you just keep the darts, enough locked, but enough that they're open, so to move, struggle a little bit, move around,
Mm-hmm.
put their back on the mat, go to the knees, and you just follow with the motion, and with the legs are moving, but you're still holding the darts. And when I say finish, then you have a 10-second window to look for a finish. If you can't finish, then it's automatic, like call again, like move, and then you can keep the darts, and then I say finish. And if I say free, you can choose yourself, kind of like do you finish or do you move? So there's autonomy parts and all those things that we talked, like a self-determination theory says in that sense in psychology. But so that's why usually it's just technique, and then it's just, we call it progressive drilling, but I guess in a way you can call it, oh, it's a play. But in a way, progressive drilling, progressive resistance drilling, I think is more, I like it more. It's more like a, sounds more structured. Play is like very chaotic, so to speak. And I think it's a wonderful idea. I don't mind if people say, oh, we do play drills. But okay, that seems to be like an umbrella, then, and then it's like, okay, what do you do under the play? How do you actually play? So then you actually see it's not random and we just go like sit on a mat and we do something. Everybody does their own thing. We just play each other. No, there's rules, there's technique. And so that's micro games or whatever you want to call them, micro achievements and stuff. So there's other methodologies, but everybody kind of talks about the play. You kind of forget that you're learning something, and it's retention rate information, and also people like it. As adults, they're in that environment that kind of psychologically rewards them, and they forget like time and family problems and work problems and stuff. And it's a really interesting kind of, like, people call it like a flow state, or there's all of kind of benefits of using similar methodologies. And I think I wish there were actually more people like talking about those things. It's not like a rocket science. You just read like 3 books and you're set and just go. But just, I find it's like a, I don't know, is it a fixed mindset of, oh, I learned like this and this is the way I was taught. But if you just read any sports skill book, how to get better, and then it's always like those gonna play like games. There's a feedback loops all the time. How to get really fast, really quick, really high like high quality feedback to what you're doing. So I just feel like if somebody just had an interest that can we do this better, and then it's not hard to find. But in a way, jiu-jitsu world is, with us, we had a second podcast also with Sonny, like Monday. So we talked about it there also, that it just seems to be denial that there's maybe better way, or still people I know practicing, and it's not like black and white in that sense. But right now, yeah, it looks like people are saying even to me, oh, Priit, your teaching methods and stuff. I'm like, this is actually, it's fun to hear, but it's also sad to hear, because it's not there, and we can do way better job, and maybe less people quit jiu-jitsu, and it will be more fun. But I know even like examples of some people being physical education PhDs, and then they're coach, I'm not saying nationalities and stuff, but coaches doing like, oh, we're doing flexibility stuff, try to put the toes to the mouth, and getting more flexible. And then people are saying, coach, we know there's a better ways to get flexible, and this is not one of them, And then coach is like, no, I don't care. This is the way we're doing it, just. And this attitude seems like a cliche or like a joke, but this is actually happening. So kind of is a sad thing, actually. So I'm happy that I get a chance to speak, and your podcast allows me to express the thoughts, and Rob is talking about it, and there's more people actually now, like I don't know, it's a new wave, but it's still not like mainstream, It's still you go to the jiu-jitsu class and it's 20 minutes warm up and 3 techniques and then you spar. It's so common. It's super funny, because I actually thought, talking about it also, that I mentioned sometimes when I'm talking about it to people that this is the way it's done, but then I start to doubt myself. Is it really? It sounds like a really bad joke. And then I actually go around and see those classes in the world, and then it's like, oh shit, it's actually happening. And so that's it. Kind of makes me sad, but also it kind of inspires me, because that means I have work to do, and that means I have a purpose, and that means I'm driven, and that means I can bring a change if I'm doing my job right. And it's awesome to have a purpose, and it's awesome to have something to do, so to speak. And then so yeah, so that seems to be like a very slow progress, but I like it.
Well, and I'm going to put myself firmly with you in that it is a slow process, but it's one that I like. To give you an idea of the the birth of this podcast. I started jujitsu at 35, and I turned 40 this year. And right before we had to stop training due to COVID, I was awarded a purple belt. But looking at the next, 20 years of my training or 10 years of my training, I realized that if I had the good fortune of starting at like 20 versus 35, there would be a different timeline on skill development that I would be playing within, both in terms of my brain's ability to learn, but also my body's ability to physically reproduce what I've learned. And so there's a clock ticking, in the back of my mind, which is partially mortality, but also what is the maximum level of skill that I can attain, in the vessel that I have, my physical body, at its age. And so this podcast is dedicated to uh, trying to find ways to acquire the maximum amount of skill in the least amount of time, and then also ways to extend my body's physical ability to be athletic for the longest amount of time. And so I really I really like your ideas and thoughts on reduction in complexity and things like that, because I feel that anytime we can parse down um, complex ideas down to a series of simple ones that then chunk together, which we can recombine, we allow a person to absorb a great deal of complexity in a much greatly reduced time. So if you just give someone a whole bunch of complex ideas, eventually they just learn how to feel them, and but that may take 5 years. Whereas if you strip away all complexity and give someone a small domain to work within, they can learn to feel within that domain in a couple of hours. Like it's like saying you're not going to learn all of jujitsu today, but you're going to learn this part of jujitsu really well. So I watched one thing where you were talking about, from say your panda position, just learning to evade someone, just with your jaw and shoulders, and spend time just doing that. Well, the body actually will learn how to feel that, and then take the sensations from that domain and be able to reapply them in a different domain if you're trying to avoid chokes, in this other place that you necessarily weren't learning it.
Yes. uh, so my I don't know. I come up with those trenches because somehow my only excuse is that's how my brain works. And
Well, I think most brains work that way, actually.
yeah, but it's most people are not after, because those positions. I actually sometimes argue with people because they don't think they're there. Because if I come with like a baby bridge, okay, that's kind of like a last straw, was a Vim's kind of class in Globetrotter, but I was seeing Pedro Sauer uses it, Rickson Gracie did it, and then Vim's class happened, and I saw it really close. And then Hawkins and Pandas and Turtles and all those things. So the fight that I always had with people was they didn't believe their systems in the bottom position. They just think, being flat and using frames, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I somehow discovered, I don't know even how, and just maybe observing what's going on, and randomly people doing good things, is I was able to, like, okay, we definitely have certain, like, different positions here that we can differentiate enough that they're separate, and then it's transitions between them, and then later you don't use them at all because everything is a transition kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But so that actually the idea got, I think, the most resistance, that, oh no, there's nothing there, and those positions, they don't work because you can't stay in side control, whatever. And the way I do it, arms and stuff, and clearing elbows. So that was really, I had that blind belief that yes, there is, and then I guess in a way, I proved them wrong, because now the feedback they get from world people using those things, and there's feedback, and maybe we'll probably make them better. There's Hawking 2.0 and there's Running Man 2.0. Small details have changed. So this has helped me, like you said, to reduce the complexity of explaining all this, what I've seen people do with good guys with scrambling rolls, as a defensive stuff in side control. But then
Yep.
how do you teach that? That they clearly, when I see what they do is some small scramble when they defend card retention and have side control something, they escape. So it's like it's looked really solid, but how do we make everybody do that?
Mm-hmm.
So then we have to pick it apart. What part is this? What part is that? And train them separately, put them back together, then see how it works, isolate the problem, fix it, put it back together. So, that's what I like. And it's a little bit like, I don't compare myself to Ben Askren, but he was the one that, brought scrambling to the wrestling, so to speak, that they say, I think, that the fourth line of defense, that he was really late scrambling all the funks and stuff. And now in the kind of, nobody did it before him that well, I think, or something. And now it's all systemized, and they have scrambling camps, and they have modules that they train, and then they put together, and then have bigger, like a longer scramblings, because they can make sense of it now. And so it's not like, preferred way of wrestling, but it happens. You should know what to do. It's otherwise it's just a feeling based thing that good guys are good at and nobody else catches up. So I don't know why I was fascinated about that, and why is that, like side control kind of survival was ended up like my study, because usually people are doing locks, submissions, guard passes, or like a random technical back takes, and people are, if you look at open a YouTube, there's like a abundance of more attacking and all those kind of, not bad things in a way, that, but if you watch defensive stuff, it's like like a Stone Age a little bit. And so there's occasionally definitely good things, but if I like, randomly, if you open randomly, like I put turtle, like jiu-jitsu turtle, yeah, BJJ turtle, the stuff you see is that just amazes me, and that kind of stresses me out also. But it's clearly defensively people haven't studied it. It's still like Stone age, and that's why what they show in the YouTube, that's why turtle has a bad reputation and nobody plays it. And then I come with my positions and go like, no, we should do it like this, and then it makes sense. And like it's a weird denial that like escapes can be as technical as attacks, or
Mm-hmm.
or as a new idea that I'm trying to say it more, that there is a there is a guard retention, but it's not like a side control retention, but it's certain like bottom retention, where it's not only using frames and stuff, but just as a positional thing. I'm not giving you, like, let's say, if you do a guard pass, you want my past the hips, or whatever, and in side control you want some kind of underhooks and stuff. So there is a retention system there, and we're fighting about, do I get back to the guard or stand up and neutral, or you get your position. So there's a weird mix of position there, and my work concentrates on that. So how to be like a really like a retention, not give everything away, and find a way out.
Well,
Everybody else mostly teaches like being flat and using frames.
what's exciting to me about what you're seeing there is that we have seen, and this is something I think that you're also onto, is that the interplay between jujitsu and wrestling is happening in that idea that just because I got my guard pass doesn't mean that I couldn't stand up.
Yeah.
So a wrestler is not going, their first instinct is not going to be recover the guard. It's going to be to get up, right? And you see this playing out in the UFC. There's not a whole lot of guard play. There's a lot of wrestling up from the bottom, and there's wall walking and kind of cage wrestling, but it's variations on a similar theme, which is, if I got my guard passed, let's just stand back up and we'll start over. Like
Yes.
it's not a situation of like, okay, my guard is the most important thing. I personally believe that the guard is a great thing, but is it better to be on the bottom of guard in a fight, or standing up and potentially being able to run away? like purely from a self-defense standpoint. But I'm talking about also, within competitive jiu-jitsu, even if you can just stand up, then, we start back at neutral. That's a big thing. That's not a small victory if you got your guard passed, that we're standing back in neutral.
I usually emphasize standing up because it's the in a way it's the longest route, and also it gives you the biggest option. You can, if you stand up, you can also pull guards, you can run away, you can fight back.
Exactly.
And then I treat it like, this is what you have to know, and everything else comes as an exception from that. So if you wanna pull guard right away, it's the exception of standing up, because standing up kind of is a technical stand up, like you do the technical stand up position, and
Yes.
during that transition you have option to pull guard also or stand up. But I emphasize that you actually get up, fight for a top, whatever it is. And if during that process you are interrupted or you choose yourself, to pull guard, why? Who cares? I'm fine with that. But I'm all about giving people choice. That if you know how to pull guard and if you know how to stand up, you have both extremes.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can play, and now your decision making, and now you're responsible. Otherwise, if you don't know how to stand up or even know the reasons and techniques, how to scramble and fight the body locks and all those things, then you don't actually have a choice but only pull guard.
Right.
And you think you have a choice, but you only have one choice, so it's that kind of like this mandatory. So I'm trying to give them the one extreme. It's like really stand up, and then you have the biggest kind of frame, and then what you do from there, like maybe you jump back while you're getting up, and then like rolling omoplatas, leg locks. Who cares? So I open up the game, and then you don't live inside my bubble so much. If I only teach you guard pull, then you don't have option to discover what else is there, because my limiting idea of, oh, I just pull guard here. So I would just go the turtle, maybe roll the leg locks or stand up. So it's up to you, and you start to play with that. And MMA guys, they like to more with the drills. They like to stand up more because their environment is necessary for that more. If you like the pull guard, I don't care. I just need for you to know that those are the option.
Yeah.
And maybe if you get too comfortable, I will create some call out drills that says, guard pull, stand up, guard pull, free. Then you do your own decisions, stand up. I can dictate what you have to do, because I know people are lazy and the standing up part takes a lot of effort, because you open yourself up to a lot of other things. So I force them with drills also. But then there's also free section. And after one, if you know both, if I made you that good that you know both, then you're free to make your own choices, and then you have to live with those choices.
Right.
So that's kind of how I treat that, because I don't think, the best way would be. Sometimes the best way is to pull guard. In that situation that you were in, maybe the best option was the pull guard. So
Right.
I don't like when people, not you, but I don't usually like when people bash guard pulling, like, oh, you should not pull guard. Well, there's situations where guard pull is better than standing up. There clearly is.
Well,
And
even within judo, a tomonagi throw is effectively an offensive guard pull. If you look at it, I personally play a lot of guard. I practice wrestling and I love wrestling. I think it's wonderful and beautiful. I'm not as good at it as I would like to be. So, I pull guard a lot. But the same as what you're saying, I recognize that that's a choice that I'm making that will have consequences. Something that really stuck out for me, and this is your show, but it's making me think of someone else. Neil Melanson has an instructional DVD called The Snap Guard, and the purpose of the Snap Guard is to always be trying to stand. It's a guard system where you're trying to get up. And through trying to get up, you force your opponent, if they want to keep you down, to drive into you, which will create offensive guard opportunities. And from watching one of your seminars, you said almost the exact same thing. It was from the leg drag position, I think, and you were basically showing how wrist control and a couple other things, making it easier for you to get up and escape outward forces your opponent to the top person to overcommit, which then creates opportunities. If you wish to play guard, by creating those extra opportunities, you just made your guard more effective by trying to stand.
Yeah, because I think very big part of, I always say this, that if you want to make top guy better, fix the bottom. Yeah, fix the escapes. It's like bottom guy is also lazy. He will do nothing if he doesn't have to do anything. Yeah. So if bottom guy only pulls guard, then top guy will get really good. Let's say he has to adapt to stop the guard pulls after side control and all those things. But that's why I don't like staying flat and all those traditional stuff, because that makes the top guy lazy. Because top guy think that he did it, that he passed the guard and you're flat because he did it. But actually, you were just waiting for them because that's how you programmed to stay there. And it's a totally different beast when somebody gets their guard passed, example, and you have to pin them, because they can pull guard, sit up, stand up. So as a top person, you have to deal with them going to turtle, bull rush them down, do wrestling kind of, turtle breakdowns. What wrestlers call also do mat returns, all kind of stuff to just keep them down there, because that's where the skill you need also in MMA. If you're jiu-jitsu guy, if you get the guy in a down, you have to be conditioned to do a lot of mat returns actually before they settle. Okay, I play bottom. And if you never get exposed to that, how they get up, they can turn in, they can turn out, they can go turtle, they can go ass up or a head up. And so that means you never get exposed to those techniques. And then you meet a good guy, jiu-jitsu, that's also a good wrestler. And then you have no idea, because if he's, only maybe wrestler, maybe you can jump on their back. But if they're jiu-jitsu wrestling guy, then they know already the back takes and stuff, and they can scramble better. So you have less chances, even if you're in top guy. So I find that when we're fixing defense, that's why I'm defense oriented a lot. That it forces people to adapt and come up with a better attacking. Because I think it's a very weird thing to say, and it can be taken in a wrong context, but I think the attacks are lacking, because people defensive skills are not there. Imagine any, like, if you, or like whatever, let's say competition, like let's say the average, people go to turtle and usually bad things happen, but think about, everybody will be tellers in a turtle. Imagine that everybody would have a skill like tellers, and we would have different things. So I find then we would have better back takes.
My little lady woke up a little earlier than she's supposed to. Yeah. Hey, how's it going? What you want something to eat? You want a banana? I'm being joined by my co-host Alexandria. Sorry about that.
No worries.
But I like what you're talking about with the idea that the interplay between jiu-jitsu and wrestling is that's almost like a data set that hasn't been mined, which I think is kind of a shame. I think so. My instructor teaches a lot of wrestling, even though he didn't wrestle. A lot of my coaches are wrestlers, and so we have really good wrestling as a part of our jiu-jitsu. And it's almost a cliche. This is not like factual, but if you're going against a guy who's a wrestler, you're probably going to want to play more of your jiu-jitsu stuff. And if you're going against a guy who is primarily a jiu-jitsu guy, then you're going to wrestle a little bit more, because the inborn reactions are less primed. So like a jiu-jitsu guy has less of an innate muscle memory skill set against a wrestler than they do another jiu-jitsu guy. And a wrestler has so much muscle memory against wrestling that if you give them an odd stimulus, which is like jiu-jitsu stuff, then you also get an advantage. Sorry about that. Hey, what are you doing?
No worries.
Okay, you want this seat? There. Eat your banana. Sorry about this. I didn't expect her to be up for about another hour and a half.
I'm good. If you're good, I'm good.
Oh, I'm definitely. This is the best. Like, this little lady and I've had a great summer. I can't work because of COVID. My work as an airline pilot, like, we've lost a lot of flying. So I've just been having a blast being with my kids. Like, these are some funny little toads. Like, I'm having a great time.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Anyway,
So yeah.
go ahead.
So that's I'm talking. That's also I get a credit a lot from people that like wrestling. They also like wrestlers. They come, oh, thank you giving us credit for And I know the Andy School of Grappling. He's been like also sharing my things and my thoughts and I think kind of like playing the back forward, like I usually like to call it, sit outs and all those things that Panda is. It is in wrestling that it's very much studied, sit outs and all those playing back forward and escaping all the things and Granbys and they train this a lot. And of course, nobody wants to turn the back in that sense, but then also when it happens, they're prepared. In jiu-jitsu, I find like people just have that dogma that, oh, don't turn your back, and even if you do experiment and stuff, they still think don't turn your back. But we see in the fights, it still happens. You better know what to do. And then and then knowing actually what to do helps you to prevent that because you train that so much. So it helps to recognize the threats really early and get really competent in that. And also you have better avoidance if you know what to do there. So I find it really weird. Like, it's a logical fallacy in that sense. Like, oh, you shouldn't, turn your back because I will take your back. Or people should stop telling that. It's definitely, in a way, like that's the same thing, like a guard pull and stand up. Like, oh, guard pulls are bad. No, it's not. It's just it's a if you only know this, then it's kind of you don't have a choice. But also the back takes, because you always have, I call it like a two ways of escaping. In that sense, if you're a regular side control, you have a way to turn in, and then you have a way to do like a body lock turn out and then pull guard again. Yeah. So you have like a short angle and you have like a long angle when you have to turn your back and then like a sort of back in. So I think that you need to have both because it's kind of like a jab cross system.
Go play. Go to your room and play, okay? Go play with your toys. You're telling me no? She wants to be on the show today.
Yeah. So well,
what you're saying about like body lock and turning, you see this a lot in MMA. Guys are fighting more for the underhook, and they're turning, and on their way around, they're getting that near side underhook and head position, so that they can wrestle from advantage, even though they were effectively behind. But so they're basically, in a way, changing the terms of the battle. Instead of staying on the bottom and turning to face, they're turning away. And in the middle of that turn, they're also getting that underhook and good. I got cheese for you.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying you should have both, kind of like a jab cross, because turning in is easier because you have also turning out option. Because if you start to turn out, they will try to pull you in. That makes it turning in easier. And if you turn in, they're gonna try to make you push away. So that accelerates turning out. So I think you need to have opposites. And somehow this idea seems to be very, very hard to grasp for some people, that you need opposites. That's why we have jab and cross. It will work forever. So yeah. So I don't mind if people give me resistance. And usually when we have a debate, they usually lose the debate because they haven't thought it out, and they have certain dogmas they repeat. And if I really show them like evidence and questions, what about this and that, then usually people yield right away that they haven't thought it out. And I don't take it bad way. I hope they will go back and think about it and then maybe come up with options, other answers, or they will change their mind. But I think people are like really, really dogmatic about it. I get messages all day, like everybody, okay, I play a turtle, and people tell me all the time, don't turn your back. And it's like, it's 2020, but it's still that. And I enjoy that because that's why I have work. And I can do what I do. in that sense. But I don't wish it was done. In a way, it would be maybe fun. It's done, and then I find something else to obsess about, and I can move on with my experiments. But also, like I said, it gives me purpose. It gives me feeling that I have something to do, and there's a message that reaches out people slowly, and there's people that are trying my things and then spreading it. And I also need those people that they're like first adapters, that they test it. So because it can be a hype train in that sense, like, oh, Priit is just hyping and hyping, and it will grow because of the hype also. But I think it's more sustainable when actually it works, and people are speaking because it works, not because Priit said so or Priit is a cool dude, or because right now it seems more like some people don't like my personality. Oh, I talk too much, or this is Priit, this is Priit, is that this. But nobody says anything about information being like bad or doesn't work, or so they still have some dogmas, but usually they don't bash information, and that's what I like. That it's proven a little bit itself, and it's a slow and consistent growth. So
Well, what excites me also about what you're saying there is you're just using the scientific method. You're just saying experiment and find out. Like don't set on a set of dogmatic ideals that can't be can't be messed with. Just question your premises and give it an attempt. And if it fails, it fails. It's worth a shot.
but so I agree with you. So that's why it's always fun to find people that are more stuck in places, about training methods, about the warm up, that is it 20 minutes burpees or something, or shrimps, like,
Yes.
or shrimps and stuff. I think even like these days, I would say wrestlers are doing it wrong, because I know clubs that I know jiu-jitsu clubs that added wrestling to their curriculum, but people quit wrestling in 3 months because it's too intense.
Mm-hmm.
And so jiu-jitsu works right now for most of us, like we're the similar age, that because it can be recreational. I can go there, I can roll, I can get a physical activity. I don't have to go like a war. Then there's young kids, they go higher and compete and stuff. I can do it for myself,
Yeah.
and I know my limits. I know it's not real actually, but I'm still getting a physical workout, and I know
Certainly.
the limit. But with wrestling, what I find with what's wrong with wrestling is wrestlers cannot, they sometimes do not how to teach recreational people. They teach kids, or they teach athletes, and in there I find like they could do a way better job of introducing wrestling to recreational grapplers or people over 30s, and we will have we would have more love towards wrestling, and also the ideas and stuff. And but I find it's
I
that's why I'm kind of trying to give them props also, because there's so much things to discover in wrestling, and a little bit to adapt to jiu-jitsu. But people seems to be like a turned off by wrestling. That, oh, it's a lot of strength and scrambling, and it's like you cannot even believe it's like you know it's the same technical as jiu-jitsu. It's
Oh,
on a higher
certainly.
level. It's the same. It's not like, oh, they're just brutes. That's so. And I guess the visual kind of scares people. They're like big flying around things and throws and stuff. So that's why I find that we should have more, or wrestlers should think about it more, because also they could earn a living doing that, because jiu-jitsu clubs, they need wrestling, but they need
Mm-hmm.
wrestling for recreational people. And so I think that market is still kid boots, what do you call it, kids boots, kids shoes. So
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
think, yeah. And then I think there we can see much improvements, that also competitors, like everybody says, ADCC wrestling. Now wrestling takes, everybody trains that, but I wish also like a judo, and then wrestling would be more oriented like towards the recreational people, because it's still fun. We don't, because I know that injuries are worse when you fall in a shoulder, or somebody
Mm-hmm.
blocks your knee and stuff. But there's ways to drill that recreational people can play it. And again, we sacrifice a little bit of reality, but they can still do something. And and it's still coordination and body control and all those things. So that's also why I'm trying to also, when I do jiu-jitsu myself, I think it's very wrestling based in that sense. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I like scramblings and I like fighting for top, and we have like a scrambling rules in jiu-jitsu how I teach it. That's all taken from wrestling. The higher man can put their weights on their arms and lift the legs, attack the legs. So there's three wrestling rules that usually they guide scramblings. So I'm just inspired their body mechanics and positions they use, and you see running mans and Hawkings and everything also in wrestling. And
Yeah.
if you want to bridge, you look for how wrestlers bridge, not under head all the time, like a, avoiding shoulder contact like they have to, but just overall the bridge. Because when Rickson Gracie in Estonia, came out with a Buddha videos, made a video with him. Did you saw it? Like
Uh,
5 years ago, Buddha videos came up with a Rickson was saying like how to do a bridge from Mount Bottom.
yes. The how to make your UPA escape
Yeah, and
much
then the
more
whole
effective.
jiu-jitsu world went nuts because whoa, this is crazy. It's like this is how you bridge actually, yeah. So it's for jiu-jitsu people usually they don't have a good bridge because most people are pulling guards. They have certain like a bridging motion in, I guess, but as a bridge, you have to watch what wrestlers are doing, and they bridge a little bit differently. And Rickson also showed a good bridge, and it was really leaning back and everything, good arch and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so I find mechanically, I that's why I like to watch wrestling also because mechanically I think they have tested it longer, and certain mechanical structures are surviving the test of time. And so I can right away watch. Okay, they do this because clearly they tested it, and so why this structure works, and can we put it in jiu-jitsu? And like my active turtle and stuff, it's basically one arm on a mat and one knee up, one knee down. But the post is away from opponent, kind of in that sense. So
Yes.
that's basically from wrestling, that. And many jiu-jitsu people find it very hard to do because they're afraid of that straight arm, kind of like a shoulder stability and all those
Mm-hmm.
things because they don't use it so much. And so many times I just have to teach them mechanical structures that because a lot of people, let's say, they don't know how to squat, with somebody on their back because they lift their heels or whatever it is. So
Yep.
I find that a lot of times it's just mechanical structures like okay, on your force, when you squat, what's this, when you post. So they just have to learn that body is not only capable of good guard pulling, but turtles are there, stand-up options are there. And so that's why I like that wrestling kind of brings that attitude more, and then we just have to adapt it more because clearly we have chokes and stuff and that wrestlers they don't have officially.
Right. Well, something that really sticks out about what you're saying is those mechanical positions, like positions of mechanical advantage, are things that um, allow the minimalism in a way that you teach. Because if we can put someone, and this is going like someone might need to know the terminology. Like if you're in that panda position and you're shrugged and you're kind of hawking and all that, the cool words, mechanically it becomes very difficult to finish you,
Yes.
which then allows you to use your arms and your legs to be moving the position, becoming a moving target. So you've made the target area smaller, and then you're starting to move the target because you can effectively grip fight. You don't have to, have your hands here. Your hands can be other places because your neck is somewhat secure. Not 100%, but certainly more
Yeah.
secure than not. And wrestling uses a lot of the ideas of good body mechanics, because if we think about it, if a person is on top of us, we have to be mechanically efficient, because that's a heavy ass person who's trying to smash us. So it's a simple logical connection to say, why not be mechanically efficient in other places too? Go
And
ahead.
that's
Sorry.
that. Yeah, that's why I feel like sometimes it's disbelief that they're there. That you can systemize side control or there's more positions. Like in top position, usually people have more options. You have a cross face underhook, you have a far shoulder hip, you have a cross face and a hip, and you can put both arms under, and then you have scarf holds,
Yeah.
and but people don't usually think there's different positions in side control. Let's say, we know hawking, baby bridge, we know, sitting turtle actually is a upright side control, you can call it. Somebody passes, you just sit here. And so that was, I find that people are really struck by that there's more side control positions or bottom positions than just being flat in side control, and so that takes usually time to get used to it, the idea that, and I turn away, I know my personally that I turn away from people way more than I have to, because clearly turning in would be, shorter angle, not always better, but shorter angle definitely. But I turn away more and I play more back forward because I want to annoy people and I want to inspire them. Because so many people have that disbelief that if I show them, they physically test, purples, browns, black belts, and they go like, God damn it, it shouldn't be easy to take your back, but it's not. And then they're conflicted because, clearly they have skill and they can't use it so well. I'm not saying nobody take my back, but it is, if I want, it's very,
tough.
very hard.
Yeah.
And then all those beliefs that they have will contradict each other because you showed me your back and everybody says, oh, now I take your back, but I can't. And you're so safe also, and you don't mind. And so they're conflicting, and I like to create that conflict. And so that's why after that, they're usually, they're thinking about it, and maybe we roll again in some point. And then the change starts from also from them because they start to believe that more because they have now personal experience, anecdotal story that I did it against Priit and it worked, and then it's like, why does it work? And not everybody picks it up, but most people are, they usually come back and want to try again, and then they're intrigued. And then, like I said, that in a way, their belief system is kind of like put under the question. That actually it's like, it's actually solid. And one guy, Jeff Knight, he lives, I think, in Portugal. Yeah, I think, and he said to me like, it looks like something like it looks so weird, but it's so solid. And he was like, running man away and pandas and stuff. He was like, God damn it, it looks so weird, but it's so solid, and like you can't get in. And so I like that people feel challenged, and I don't say they have to believe me right away. I don't want them to believe. I want them to like go back and think about it, and they'll come back and try to break it. And let's say if we do tests, if you try to take my back, let's say 10 times, and if 6 times I escape, then, and if I can keep that ratio, 6 to 4, that means it's better than luck, you know. So if it's 50-50, then it's like, okay, I take your back or not. But if it's already like 6 to 4, it's better than luck. And my experience says if I can do it, I can pretty much keep the ratio even higher if I want. And I'm definitely saying, I don't say that nobody takes my back, but because there's good guys and timing, so I have to get used to their timing and aggressivity. But I can keep definitely ratio like more than, if I want, more than above the luck. And but also I know that's why people have competitions and penalty rules and stuff, and that's why there's a physique in play, because clearly if I would roll with somebody physically my size and physical athlete, I will get tired in some point. I could defend myself in some amount of time, and then I will get tired and more mistakes come in, and then I will lose more. But that's already like athleticism. That's why we have that. You can't stand back, step back in wrestling. We just have to create like I call it a particle collider, like a sparks, and then mistakes. Always the sparks are mistakes, and that's what sport is. That if there wouldn't be any penalty rules, nobody would not get anything because everybody's defense is in a higher level of wrestling so good, or jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu we can stall more, so that's the bad thing in jiu-jitsu. Still in no-gi submission only, and in BJJ, it's still the big Achilles heel they have is like they can't get rid of the stalling, because that's how people use the rules these days, and that's really like a really annoying thing to see. And it's not that athlete's fault, actually. It's like the rules. Athletes are always playing the rules. So nobody should bash. Like there was an underground fight, that Greg Jones fought. I forgot his name, his nemesis. That he lost to him like 3 times already. He had like a month ago or something.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, it was in the most recent submission underground.
Yeah. So that the guy was accused. Oh, you played the rules. It's like that's what athletes do. They play the rules to expose the rules. And then if you don't like the outcome, you change the rules. You don't bash the athlete by doing anything he can for a win, because that's what they want. They want the minimum effort to win. And that's why we have penalties. So that's another topic that kind of annoys me, that people's, I don't know why, but they don't want to fix, because it's clearly like an elephant in the room or in all the competitions, like a stalling.
Well, you said something. You said something on that Sonny Brown podcast that I listened to that really stuck out to me as well. Talking about the rules, you said that the IBJJF should be a center of innovation for the turtle, because turning to turtle reduces points. Like the giving up of points. Hey, I need you to leave me alone, sweetheart. I'm busy right now. I'll be right back with you, okay? Okay, come on in.
So I agree with you. So, and I don't understand actually this logical fallacy. I just it boggles my mind, because it makes so much sense. Okay, you can avoid the turtle by you can avoid 3 points. It's beneficial. It's worse to stay on your back, give up 3 points, because 3 points is very hard to take back. So if you go to turtle, and if you give only advantage away, and it's easier to take advantage back. So we should I would expect IBJF guys have a really nice, like a guard attention, and going to turtle right away, or inverting right away from there, standing up, going neutral, pulling a back guard. I would expect this to be like a really high level, but we don't see that. We see still people are like, don't go to turtle, they take you back, and people are saying like you have more chance of losing when you go to turtle. But same is like, it's IBJF definitely. If you give 3 points, it's kind of like very in a high level. It's very, very hard to take back. And
yes.
So I don't understand that logical fallacy. But the only thing I can just out top of my head is like, it's just denial towards like the turtle cannot be the answer. We don't know how to avoid 3 points. We have to stay side control, and we're looking for answers to beat and have a better outcome. But the turtle can't be one. So it's just like a weird denial that. And I understand also the way people play turtle, elbows open and everything else. It is dangerous, and I would not recommend that. We have a better knowledge on how to play turtle, so I understand there also like an idea that turtle is dangerous, but then their mindset is fixed towards that how turtle is played. And also people are saying, oh, but the evidence is people take your back. Yeah, but against that turtle. So
yeah,
it's
like saying the Three Little Pigs, the one whose house keeps getting blown down. Well, it's made of straw, so of course it got blown down.
Yeah, so that's why usually the debates are ending like weirdly, because I say those evidences to them. They're like, they run out. I find people always change their argument. If I answer the one argument they have, they always change the argument. What about this? And finally, it's still like, I don't like it. And every kind of argument gets to that, I don't like it. And then it's like, dude, we can't have a debate about it. What do you like? It's like, you can like that, but the way I see it, like, why do you spread that likeness? That you may like this, I don't mind. That's your personal preference. But you can't not show good turtle to others, or have that fixated mindset, because everybody that comes after you will be you will kill the generation. Our goal is kind of make the next generation better than us. But if the information is cut after you just do a so big disservice to everybody else that comes after you. And so it's super dangerous to go, I don't like it, that's why I don't teach it. And people don't doubt themselves, and I guess too much. Or is there a way? Because if I go like, oh, there's Eduardo Tellez, but they go like, oh, he's anomaly. No, he's not a goddamn anomaly. We can study him. That's why we had maybe we can do a comparison of Tesla and all those things. That's why we had things because one guy thought, the Wright brothers, they were crazy, They was like, oh, we have to fly, That the people were like, you're nuts. What do you mean fly? And then, but they did it, Then now we fly. Now everybody flies. So those anomalies are actually worth studying. So, and I also understand that a statistical anomaly that sometimes is not worth studying, and what worked and the statistical anomaly just happens. So I understand that reasoning, but in that sense, I think I'm not that educated that to say what is the law here, that why in this case we should study anomaly like a tellus and see why
Well,
it
I think
works.
the what makes it someone like Tellus not a statistical anomaly that is not beneficial is the fact that what he was able to do was repeatable. So
Yes.
if you look at the scientific method, a big part of the whole idea of peer review and repetitive study is something repeatable. Does it happen, more than just once? If something is a statistical outlier and is basically just throwing off your data, then it won't be very repeatable. It'll just sort of happen out in the open. But Tellus was able to win championships because what he did was outside the norm, but it wasn't mechanically outside the norm, and was very repeatable. So it was within the principles, and the mechanics are all the same. It's just that he
So
was expressing them in a different way.
yeah, so that I agree with you in that sense that people saw him as an anomaly, but what he did was repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
But they put it in the same bucket. No, he's an anomaly. He's out there, and it's like, goddamn, Keenan couldn't take his back. And we have to go like, okay, why did it happen? Because Keenan has a very good back take,
Yeah.
and if he can defend Keenan's back take, that I raise my hand because I'm interested, and so we have to study that. And so that's what I find with people that also that's why I appreciate the podcast with Sony, with you, and now I think in end of September we have a mental model
Yep.
podcast asked me that I can get a voice and a little bit express my concerns, opinions, ideas, and then people can accept them, resist them, debate about them. But I would like to just engage or ignite in conversations about those things. So clearly we haven't had those, I think, enough, and we should have to questioning, and more people like critical mass questioning, calling people out that if somebody shows a turtle like this, that dude, that's not how we do it. And so coaches and stuff, they would feel pressured to change and to study and to look for better stuff because somebody told, no, 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 don't do that turtle. You should check out this because this is better. And then so coach should, so always if you teach something, you have to have that fear that am I doing the optimal version of that thing. Because
Yes.
if I don't do optimal, then somebody can call me out. So that's my job. And
And,
also
and
that's why I find fear weird that people teaching turtles and clearly they're not doing optimal, even in side control bottom example. So outsource the optimal way, and somebody should guide you and listen to people that are giving examples of, okay, you should check this out, check, because as a coach, admitting that I don't know, or oh, you said this, like even a white belt goes, oh, check this out, because not even towards my information but something else, that, oh, this is a better. And if coach goes, no, I'm a black belt, I know better, then it's like, then it's kind of you being an asshole. But you go like, okay, if something better, show me, and if it's better, I will change my mind. And then the student gets information that coach is learning all the time,
mm-hmm.
admitting mistakes. And usually people think if somebody admits mistakes, then it shows their weakness, and oh, somebody leaves me because I didn't know. Usually opposite happens, because I admitted I made a mistake and now I do better. Usually people stick around actually more because they know that you're trustworthy, that if something goes wrong, you will accept that and do better. So
In America, we have a cliche that is nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And by expressing openness to learn, even from someone like let's say a white belt bringing in new information, You're saying I care about you and I respect you enough to listen, even though at this point in your journey, your opinion, you don't know what you don't know. But still, you may have stumbled upon, a valid idea. So it's always worth review, if nothing else, just to say this is why we do what we do, and this thing that you brought in this case, it's not going to change our minds because it may not be a valid new piece of information, but it might. So we're going to be open to it.
Because I've actually done, sometimes I do them publicly also. I've actually done experiments publicly that I have an idea I want to test out, and we'll see if it works or not.
Yeah.
And then people, usually it's, sometimes it works very good, sometimes it's semi kind of working, and then I say, oops, I was wrong, now we study further. But we had enough evidence because I need new brains, and new body types and stuff. So the way actually I train right now in my gym, I trained in August and stuff, was we taught anaconda escapes, different timings.
Mm-hmm.
And then I told people this is experimental. We're just going, shooting from the hip, and we're developing defenses as we go. And because we have the rules and ideas that how we should solve problems, we have the formulas, postures, and stuff. And then you see everything unfold in front of you. And people are like, what? Kind of weird that Preet doesn't know or something. I was like, I don't know. Then there's nobody to ask because there is no Anaconda Defense DVD out yet.
Right.
So I have to go, and I have my formulas that have helped me before, and maybe we discover new formulas that because of the new problems we have to come up with something else. And so that's interesting, and I think I don't teach that always like this, but I think it's also fun to see for people that openly I say open to this, but I don't know, let's go. And then I also figure out the answer by just experimenting. And I think it shows the vulnerability or willing to make a mistake. And also because I have the tool not to make a mistakes too much, because I would be also stupid. I go to like to experiment and I don't have the tools, to actually pull off anything. It would be reckless, so I still have my formulas, I'm prepared, and now I have a problem. So and that means I have tools to work with that. So that's I hope it's for people. I've done that also in Estonia and also abroad. I hope it's inspiring for some people to see that coaches are human and we don't know everything, and we kind of that the black belts makes us look that we know everything kind of, but actually just we're expert in our field in a very narrow game, kind of what everybody does the best, I think. And
Yeah.
there's so many fields that we don't know. And so like usually there's, if you see like Joe Rogan podcast, they have some scientists, and they're scientists, yeah, they're PhDs and professors and stuff, and they go sometimes, oh, that's not my field, I know a little bit about it. And so it's kind of always refreshing to see that they don't start to go like, oh, I am expert in this and this and because I'm scientist.
Yes.
That there's clearly areas that some people in jiu-jitsu also should not make make statements or look for outsource other black belts that are better in that area. And then it's the way it should be. We should outsource different kind of expert black belts in different fields
Right.
and get their information. And I think it sounds good, but I think that the time of the one ultimate source is kind of done in a way, that outsourcing DVDs, informations, even like if somebody's like a purple belt, is an expert of X guard, why not also outsource the purple belt and let them teach, because clearly he knows more X guard than you. In that X guard is a black belt in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I think that kind of teaching model should be more. I think that takes us further than just I'm the coach, one source, I have my lineage and all that. It's kind of, in a way, it's, I think I don't mind lineage, and we have to pay our respects to people before us, but
Yes.
also I think open source learning, who's ever better than us in that, or do I invite him in, or do I understand what he has to learn and teach it myself? Because by teaching you learn the most also by everything. So
Totally true.
yeah, both are good. So like anything in outsourcing, kind of should be the kind of new thing or something. But still,
I
yeah. So everybody, I know that also Rob talks about it, but so many, I feel that no, we have one lineage, and we don't do this. Our gym doesn't do this. Our gym, I've very thing I've seen also that some gyms they do, let's say, very simple idea. Some gyms do more stand-up passes, and some gyms do more pressure passes. But I think we should do everything. So, but your coach is more stand-up passer, and that's why everybody's good in stand-up. But people are not that good in maybe low passes.
Right.
So I think that's the best way would be like we outsource, like I said, everything, and people can be what they can be, and they're not hindered by coach's bubble, because
Wait,
coach is good at something.
I was a flight instructor for a long time, and taught at a school. We signed off more commercial pilot certificates in a year than any other school in America. We had a lot of students, and um, one of the things was when you were an instructor, it was widely known that there would be things that you would be an expert in, and other things that you would be competent in, but not an expert. And so you would maybe farm out certain modules within a training course to another instructor with one of your students because you knew that they were better at teaching it. So in my own example, I was very good at landing. Like landing airplanes was something that was always very natural to me. But I
As
had
a
a hard
pilot,
time.
sounds logical to have that skill.
Yeah, but teaching it was really hard. Like, so if someone wasn't natural, then I had a hard time taking them from 0 to 1, like getting you from I don't understand how to land to I can land. I could really clean up someone's landings once they were decent, but I couldn't take them from
Yeah.
0 to decent. So what I would do is I would have another instructor that I knew that was really good at teaching landings, and I would say, hey, take my student for a couple of days and train them up and get them where I can talk to them basically. And on the converse, I had a really difficult time as a student learning how to fly in clouds, like without reference to the ground. And so I had to build systems in blocks for myself to make that work. And then I was able to just hand those systems off to my students. So in the same
Sounds
token,
logical. Yeah.
yeah, I was very good at teaching that. And so other instructors who that was maybe more natural to them and they didn't have those systems would hand their students to me for a few days so that I could, hand those blocks off, and then they would go back to them. And that was never seen as like, oh, my instructor sucks, he can't teach this. It was, for this thing, you can help me more than my instructor can. And once we get past this point, then I'll go back to my instructor. And nobody ever looked at that as like, oh, well, this my instructor's not a great pilot, or your instructor's not, everybody knew that it's like, well, yeah, I have a great instructor, but in this domain, this other guy or girl can help me more, so I'm going to take that, for this small part.
Yeah. So I feel in outside of jiu-jitsu, I think it's more accepted that that if you say I don't know this guy knows better how to teach it. I'm maybe a great pilot, but teaching, it's better to have a specialization in teaching. That this guy does a better job in this teaching, like a module. This guy does a better job there. So being good at teaching everything in a flight, whatever, flying a plane. Maybe there's people, I don't know. Maybe some people can do everything, but also I think you can also outsource the answer that maybe it is better to teach it modularly. That some people do this, some people do this, and the results are better than one person teach everything. And so I think that sounds very logical and kind of like what we're saying also here. So I think in that sense, jiu-jitsu is, it still feel like lineage. It's, cultish maybe. There's some like only one source, one coach. And I'm not saying it's like everywhere, but it's, if you look at like average, I think we can talk about it still. And but just more coaches, more even like blue belts teaching, and because there's, I don't know, I feel, when you read about it, and then some articles about also, oh, don't let blue belt teach, and they ruin everything. I think they have very specialized games sometimes that black belts they don't have, by nature of rolling, and you can ask them, what about you do here and stuff, and actually I think it encourages them. It gives them respect in a club, and people feel good about themselves, and oh, I was useful. and then it builds self-esteem more, and then it hooks people to the club way better, and they're like more
Mm-hmm.
fans and stuff, instead of, oh, you're a blue belt, you don't know anything. And I think it's really easy to go like, oh, black and blue, but people know it's not that simple, blue belt and black belt. And so
Yeah, even within black belt, there's
yeah,
levels.
yeah. So I
Because
feel
you
like
you
this
know
kind of more open sourcing, and it becomes more like every jiu-jitsu should become like everything else that's normal, the way we do it. So we should bring certain like a doubting, certain methodologies, culture, teaching culture to jiu-jitsu. I think it's slowly happening. More smart people that get black belts already, that are educated PhDs, now they know, and they're trying to like make sense of it, how to teach jiu-jitsu using those ideas. So I think just the more it grows, we will have more those doubters and more people that want to do it differently. And it's just, I don't think we weed out the people that in that sense bad way that will do it like in an old school way. I think it's just going to be a generation shift, and then next generation will be different. So it's not going to be like we have to get rid of them, but it's just like sport grows, and also people as clients can make choices, because clearly if you see one choice, one cafeteria, other cafeteria, and as a client you can go like, oh, I like this, they offer me this, they offer me this, I can make a choice. And so I feel that is also important, that, and the more there's competition, the more I think it pushes also old schoolers to adapt, because they're like, people are going away, because more games, more kind of one-on-one interaction, more you're my friend and not my kind of I'm superior to you or whatever, black belt,
exactly.
and all kind of things. I think the more the newer generation comes up, I think it forces older to adapt, and finally, the good stuff will take over by nature, and this has happened to many times before in any other field, so it will happen in jiu-jitsu also.
Well, Preet, I totally agree with you. And I don't want to sound like a sycophant or like a fanboy, but I am a fanboy, and I think everybody should check out your ideas, because even if they disagree with them, um, it will cause them to think critically about what they believe in, which is always a good thing. So if somebody wants, first off, I would say if somebody wants to learn more about you, go to the Globetrotters seminars. Just go to BJJ Globetrotters and watch those videos. They're very well laid out, and I've watched them all. I like them and have used a lot of the ideas that I got from them. But if somebody wants to learn more about you, how would they go about doing that?
So yeah, I would just add also, Globetrotters, they have an in-action site. Yeah, globetrotters.com, they have an in-action section. So I'm on Facebook, Priit Mihkelson. You can go like Jits Vulcan with a C, like a Star Trek stuff. So somebody just named me that like years ago, that I was kind of jiu-jitsu and also Vulcan, kind of stoic, kind of emotionless, and there's kind of like a nickname maybe a little bit. So I'm in Facebook, Instagram, Jits Vulcan, Globetrotters. So I have information out in Fanatics. They can see my work there if they're done with
Yep.
all the free stuff, and then maybe want to go deeper a little bit. So that's there. Also, I would give a shout out. You can find me, I think, in a month or so already. I hope we're building our own site right now.
Mm-hmm.
Defensivebjj.com. So we're entering the market that seems to have, maybe, if I say no competition, but kind of like nobody's concentrating so much on defensive part of jiu-jitsu. So that is an interesting project, and I have that reputation. So maybe that works. So we were trying to come up. People can check the front page of the site and sign up and stuff, and we will send them invites, and when the page is open. So definitely I will be active in that site. And then
And
so
when
I think that's
when you get that up and running, I want to have you back on the show to kind of talk about
yeah,
that as well.
yeah. So I think those are main things, like a defensive site, gonna be the defensive BJJ site, Facebook. I'm very active there. Instagram, yeah, Globetrotters. So Nothing pops to my head, you know. And probably if I go around, I'm, you know, not right now doing seminars, so you can find me traveling the world, and maybe even I pop because then I was in America. I've traveled to Canada, so I know I might see those people that have listened to your podcast also maybe in seminars sometimes around when this whole things kind of cools down.
Yeah, I definitely think that I want to get the chance to do one of your seminars. I think it would be a lot of fun. Um, for my old rollers, hold on, my daughter's moving large toys here.
No worries.
She decides to make some noise anytime I talk. But for my old rollers, if you're liking this content, um, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and share this with a friend. That's the biggest way that you can help me and help yourselves and your training partners is to send this information around because jiu-jitsu is like a rising tide. All boats get lifted. So if you help your training partners, they will help you. And so good ideas, if they're shared, make everybody better, including yourself. Like, share, and subscribe, and those things that YouTube and the podcast services love. Those things all help me, which help me get more and more people willing to talk to me, and we get more ideas exposed. With that, I think we'll put a pause on this, but I want to bring you back when your website comes up because I think we got some more stuff to explore.
Very
And
cool.
you've given me a lot to think about, and I really, really can't thank you enough for joining the show, Preet.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that my name is out there enough that people with podcasts are willing to give it me a chance because clearly you do it for the listeners also because you want to bring value. So I appreciate that because I don't usually feel myself socially very well that how much my name is out there and like this. I know I get feedback, but if the podcasts are allowing me to have a voice already, so that is a very good sign that I'm doing something valuable. And as a podcasters, they want to share that, so I really, really appreciate that. And so yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Well, it's really exciting. And once again, I can't thank you enough. And with that, I think we will pause.
Pause.